narrative consultation companies like Sweet Baby Inc. are a blight on the video game industry. Their ranks are filled with activists who don't really care about video games, and they ultimately love to disrespect gamers, the very people they need to swipe their credit card so they can continue to have jobs. And now the gamer has put out this massive hit piece against us while defending SBI, saying with all eyes on this company, the devs are just normal people trying to get on with their jobs. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, over the past couple of months, we have seen a lot of puff pieces come out for Sweet Baby Inc. from the mainstream media, like Kotaku and Alyssa Mercante's Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what you think they do article, even though that's a complete lie. They do exactly what you believe. And now they've decided to do this big interview with Grant Roberts, an extremely controversial figure. So Grant Roberts has been in the gaming industry for 25 years and believes it's now in a worse state than it's ever been. With a seemingly endless stream of mass layoffs and studio closures, it's hard to disagree, and I wouldn't disagree. I do think that the video game industry is in a state of disaster because we are seeing, mass layoffs, studio closures, budgets are at a record high. But I also think that the quality is at an all-time low, which is not helping these people. And Grant Roberts recently spent 1.5 years working as a narrative director at Sweet Baby Inc., a consultancy company that, like all consultancy studios in games, largely went under the radar until earlier this year. Then all of a sudden, it was everywhere. Yes, you could no longer hide. Gamers are finally calling out the very people in the industry who are making titles worse. You might be thinking to yourself, who is Grant Roberts besides this apparently narrative director at Sweet Baby Inc.? His most notable credit is actually being the lead scriptwriter for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So it seems that, yes, of course, he was working on this game, then he went to work for Sweet Baby. Either way, disaster after disaster after disaster here. I don't think that Kill the Justice League would have been much better if Sweet Baby wasn't affiliated with it, because I think that Rocksteady is a shell of the company they once were and they are filled with activists, but I do think that SBI severely damaged it. It says, though, throughout 2024, it has culminated in what many are referring to as Gamergate 2.0, but at the heart of this are people like Grant Roberts, who until recently was one of Sweet Baby's 16 employees. I love how the media constantly says that, oh, they're a small company, there's only a handful of people that work there. Yeah, but they've worked on some of the largest games and franchises within the industry at this point, like God of War Ragnarok, seemingly Assassin's Creed, because Kim Belair's ties to Ubisoft. We know that, of course, Rocksteady was a major name. We're not talking about just indie titles here, and they are burying a lot of games that they're affiliated with. What Sweet Baby has not done is show up at a game studio and say, hey, we're making your game woke now or else. No, all they do is work with activists, and that is the problem, because they are activists. You are talking about radical leftists looking to hire other radical leftists to apparently do a, quote, better job. But if you're so bad at your job that you can't get a comprehensive story and characters with a lot of depth on screen without a consultancy group helping you, you suck at your job and you probably shouldn't have it. But we see this happen a lot now. It says, of course, in October of 2023, the discourse around Sweet Baby kicked off on a message board, and this was because of games like Alan Wake 2 and Marvel Spider-Man 2. It's basically like they're salty over the fact that gamers are actually paying attention now. One of the most frustrating parts about the events over the last year and a half is just this incredible level of misunderstanding, both deliberate and assisted. It's not how it works. That's not what we do. We didn't put pride flags in Spider-Man 2. This has all been on the internet. It's all out there. We didn't make Saga Black and Alan Wake 2. That's not what happens. The issue is that these people say that there is a level level of misunderstanding, both deliberate and assisted, yet they refuse to clarify. We do not have comprehensive lists of what they did or did not affect within a video game. They will not sit down with content creators like myself, for example, who are willing to have a civil conversation and hear their side of the story. So, what do you expect us to do? Not pay attention to you? Not call you out when something looks suspicious? If people like Grant Roberts truly were for diversity and inclusivity, that would also include inclusivity of thought, and they would have discussions with individuals they disagree with generally, like me, for example, but they don't do that. So why would I give you the benefit of the doubt when you would never give it to me? See, this is just the problem with these people, the mentality. It goes on to say how Sweet Baby Inc. works with game studios. And they basically just talk about how the way I think of it is like two axes. There's the axis of the scope of what we do on a project, ranging from doing the entire narrative of the game, world building and writing and narrative direction, all the way down to reading somebody's design doc or checking out a character bio. And yes, sometimes that takes the form of authenticity, sensitivity, and diversity and things like that. But again, he does not clarify on one single project what they did or didn't do. But then he goes on to talk about YouTubers and gamers and how we're all just terrible people. This is a far cry from the picture being painted by its detractors who reduce the work to adding queer characters and pride flags to games. Often, Sweet Baby is attached to projects it had nothing to do with, and the studio's name has become shorthand for games that include diverse casts or progressive politics. You see YouTube thumbnails, and then there's a little Sweet Baby logo on it. Like, I would have loved to work on Dragon Age the Veilguard. That series is great, but no, we didn't work on it. The list of the games that we did not work on is pretty big, but you wouldn't know it by looking at YouTube thumbnails and posts by people on Twitter. Misinformation online is nothing new, particularly on YouTube and Twitter, but with this in mind, Robert feels like a campaign like the one we're seeing now was inevitable. If you guys were simply transparent, we would have nothing to criticize you over. I mean, of course, yes, we may still not like the work that you're doing, but 90% of that backlash would probably just go away. A lot of that misunderstanding would just go away. People simply want transparency, and this is something that we are severely lacking in the industry right now. He goes on to say that it hasn't stopped Sweet Baby from getting work either. When it really reached its apex, when Elon Musk was tweeting about us, companies were reaching out to us privately and showing support. Nobody was pulling that support. And that's these companies' choices, but ultimately these companies are going to lose money, just like any kind of project that works with a narrative consultation company. There are, in my opinion, very few projects that go out of their way to hire consultancy companies in the mainstream industry right now that are doing successfully. Most of these projects are being boycotted, are selling very poorly. Sometimes, yes, it is because people do not want to support Sweet Baby. Sometimes it's because the storytelling is really poor. Sometimes games just go under the radar no matter what the case is. We know that these individuals do push DEI initiatives into video games. They can convince you or try to convince you no matter how much they want, but at the end of the day, we do know the truth is that they are trying their best to make the industry more of what they deem as proper, inclusive, diverse. And I'm all for inclusivity and diversity, but not forced inclusivity and diversity. You know, I don't want companies to go down a checklist and hire people based on their gender, their skin color, their sexuality, but that's all these people really seem to care about because they are, yes, radical leftists. This whole piece to me really comes across as such a slap in the face to basically anybody they disagree with, whether you are a gamer, whether you are a content creator, whether you're just somebody who casually has scrolled social media and knows about Sweet Baby and might have a negative negative image of them in your head. They're basically saying that you're a terrible person and I'm a terrible person, which is so unfortunate because, again, I would love to sit down with somebody like this, have a genuine conversation, but instead it's hit piece after hit piece after hit piece. And while the mainstream media is trying their very best to defend the SBI, saying the devs are just simply trying to do their jobs, they're just not very good at their jobs, clearly, because they're releasing failure after failure after failure. And well, maybe these people should go and find another industry to infiltrate because gamers are not buying their BS anymore. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.